Hi, it's John, and welcome to the channel. 4:52 a.m. Thursday, October the 16th. I hope you're having a great start to your Thursday morning. I've got my big blue mug of coffee, and I appreciate you being here. So, where do I begin? I did a video probably a couple of months ago now where I talked about the growing chasm or gap between the left and the right in Canada. And I was saying at the time, I think it's getting harder and harder to bridge that gap between the two sides. And instead of the country coming together, which is what the Canada Strong thing that Carney talked about and Team Canada that Carney talked about, bringing us together, this gap is getting bigger all the time. And I got this feeling after reading Pierre Poilievre's article in the National Post yesterday. I'm not sure whether you saw it, but it's a great article. It's very precise. It's very common sense. It's called "The Liberals Must Get Out of the Way of Growth." And it's what you and I as conservatives think, but the left doesn't think this way. And this is the gap that is tearing this country, this dumpster fire that I call Canada, apart. And I'm going to prove it right now. The left, they're nuts. They're crazy. And I have nothing in common with them. And if you're like me, neither do you anymore. That's why we need to divide the country in half and give half of it to the east and half of it to the west. They can have British Columbia, and we can go our own ways and live in peace, harmony, and in the west, we can have prosperity. We can't have nice things in this country because of the nuts and the people who support them on the left. I'm going to prove it to you right now. And I never thought I was going to talk about this morning. Isn't that funny how it always happens this way? So here, I'm going to read a little bit of this article to you. I hate when people read the whole article. You can read the whole thing, link in the description. I'm going to read a few passages for you, and then I'm going to show you what I saw from Mark Carney. First thing I saw from him this morning that is probably was posted mere hours after Poilievre's article went up on the National Post website that is diametrically opposed to everything you agree with, but the left loves this. So here's the article, "The Liberals Must Get Out of the Way of Growth." No kidding. So I'll read a bit of it for you. "For centuries, alchemists promised and failed to turn lead into gold. What is most astounding is that even after each debunking, the charlatans would repackage their discredited schemes as something new with fresh jargon and different salesmen, luring wave after wave of hopeful dupes eager for golden miracles. Instead of promising to turn lead into gold, today's alchemist in chief, Mark Carney, promises to turn deficits into investment. An old Trudeau liberal promise repackaged as a fresh idea with shiny new slogans like, what did I talk about yesterday? Spend less and invest more. Sounds more sophisticated, but it's not that different from the budget will balance itself, which was Justin Trudeau's way of promising that deficits would fund investments, sparking enough economic growth and tax revenue for, well, the budget to balance itself. So I'm going to skip over things. He talks about investments, he talks about deficits, he talks about GDP and how you're falling farther behind, and I'm going to go down to this part right here. Carney would tell you that when the government borrows money out of the private sector, it can use the money for big state-directed economic investments that will produce greater returns. That prompts two questions. If an economic project is viable, why would the government need to fund it? If it is not viable, why would the government want to fund it? Ports, rail lines, pipelines, and other large-scale infrastructure can get loans and investments from the trillions of private dollars available from pension funds or insurance companies and collect user fees to pay out returns. The fact that a given project needs government money is a good hint that it will be a massive money loser. The only reason why money-making projects do not happen in Canada is because the government won't get out of the way and won't let them happen. We have the second slowest building permits in the OECD and among the highest taxes on investment. The government of Canada only needs to do one thing to unlock trillions of dollars in investment: get out of the way. Get out of the way by granting the fastest permits in the developed world. Get out of the way and end capital gains tax on reinvestments. Get out of the way and repeal anti-resource laws and bans on shipping off of BC's north coast and end oil and gas production cap. Get out of the way and let builders build, workers work, and business boom. With the most resources of any country in the world, we do not need liberal alchemists who promise yet again to turn deficits into investment or lead into gold. We need them to get out of the way and let Canadians start digging the gold mine that is right under our feet. And I've mentioned how many times I'm sitting in my backyard a week ago saying, right below my feet in Calgary, there's trillions of dollars in oil, and we can't get it out of the ground. Great article. Again, link in the description. So what do I see first thing this morning from Mark Carney? Mere hours after this is posted on the National Post website, here's a tweet from the Prime Minister of Canada talking about Canada getting in the real estate business with a new housing design dialogue. Pick your house from your new realtor, Mark Carney, with the new housing program that Canada's dumping billions of dollars into. It has 50 standardized housing designs that builders will use to streamline approvals, cut through red tape, and get millions more homes built faster. All we need to do is get the government out of the way. The government does not solve problems, it creates the problems. To which I answered right here, I'm not going to read it because I would have to edit it. Government housing. This is going to be a massive. This is just ridiculous. We're now feeding your kids because you can't afford your food. We're now trying to build houses because housing prices are through the roof. And all we need to do, like Pierre Poilievre said, is get out of the way. But they won't do it because there's this chasm. But here's the thing. I want to just show you here. This is from Small Dead Animals. This is a post just the other day. I want a new country. See this beautiful home? A friend of mine is selling this property in Alabama. So here's the house. In Stockton, Alabama, for $435,000, beautiful country home, 1.6 acres of land, $435,000. Here's a house you can buy in Saskatoon right now, $667,000. And if you walk at your front door, you're standing on your neighbor's front porch almost. Yet the government has to build your house? Your new realtor is Mark Carney. But here's the thing, folks. Here's where the gap, the chasm is growing between people like you and me, common sense people, and people who support Mark Carney and this nonsense on the left. I see this tweet this morning from a guy named John Brennan. We're in the fight of our lives for Canada to survive as a nation while we watch the United States surrender its democracy to Project 2025. The only way we survive is to stand united with our PM. Pierre Poilievre needs to get that message and stop bashing the PM. It gets worse. You know what? That's his job. John Brennan, who the hell are you? Have you lost your freaking mind? Here's that absolute nutcase. This woman's a nut. Really? So Poilievre is talking about how Stellantis is losing jobs. And Mark Carney has not done anything to solve the problem with the issues we've got with the United States. And he promised this way back in July. Really? Sold them out? Why do you think this divisiveness appeals to Canadians? It's a trade war. Mark Carney is doing his best to save our country from a tyrannical American president you seem to copy daily. We are not fools, and Canadians are sick of your MAGA BS. The Liberals are the disease, Laura, and so are the people who support them. Donald Trump is a symptom. I put down here, when will you realize he's not doing his best? And then you got people like this. These are the people who support Mark Carney and the left in this country. They hate Donald Trump so much, they've lost their freaking minds. This is Peter Ratcliffe, forever Canadian. No doubt the elbows up type, folks. Of course, Donald Trump has made Antifa in the United States a terrorist organization. These are people who show up with masks and create chaos and hurt people and damage property. Listen to this. This is the mentality. This is the chasm, folks. This is the gap we've got in our country now. Read this. Antifa is not an organization. This is the narrative now. Antifa is a philosophy, a way of life, an unstructured, unfunded search by individuals for lasting justice, peace, and freedom for every peaceful individual on our planet. So if you're declaring war on Antifa, you're without question a fascist. And I write, you are delusional. Do you think we can bridge this gap? And then we got this. I saw this morning. Here's your energy minister. This is Tim Hodgson doing a video for Natural Resources Canada. Now, he's the energy minister. So far, this man has not announced a single energy project in this country from what I know of. And that's what we're begging for here in Alberta. What we need projects to build things so we can become more prosperous. And people like this guy's going on about carbon management, building a pipe to put this crap under the ground. And he produced a 4-minute video on how we can't rely on trees to get rid of carbon dioxide. Do you think there's any place we can find common ground with these nutcases? I don't. And Danielle Smith is kissing the ass of people like Hodgson and Mark Carney. God love her. She's trying to do everything she can to make my province prosperous. She's trying to make the country prosperous. She knows what needs to be done. Unfortunately, we keep electing the idiots in Ottawa and out east that hold this country back, that make it the dumpster fire that I talked about a couple of days ago. It's just so maddening. Which brings me to something you need to be at, that will get rid of this madness, that will separate us from these nutcases who vote for this. Don't forget, there's an independence rally coming up on October 25th at the Alberta Legislature in Edmonton from 4 to 6 p.m. You need to be there. Now, I did a video yesterday on how there are some buses available, okay? Not a lot of seats right now. I don't know if more buses will be booked, but there are some buses available leaving from different places in the province, including here in Calgary, where I live. If you want a seat, you're going to have to book it fast. I'll put a link in the description so you can go there right now and book your seat to be there. Now, if you're actually going there and you know somebody who hasn't got transportation, offer them a seat in your car if you've got some space, because we need this to be a huge rally. Thank you very much for watching. Sorry for getting so emotional, but I've had it. And the problem is I keep going back to this type of video because I can't believe the insanity of the left. Thanks for watching. I hope you appreciate it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Help me get to 40,000 subscribers, so subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell for notifications. I'm going to calm down now, get another big blue mug of coffee. I'll see you in the next one.